Hi, good evening. It's Shauna K. Lester. Welcome to another live broadcast. I am the founder of Memorable Essay and the creator of the Residency Match Application Accelerator. So thank you for being here. So tonight we're going to talk about how to create a main message for your residency application. This is a really important topic, so be sure to click like and to click share with anyone who you know who's applying to Match 2021, because this information is absolutely super valuable. So there are a couple of points for us to walk through in terms of how do you go about making that main message. But the first thing that I want us to talk about is what is a main message. Perhaps you have never actually heard of this before, so I'm going to explain what it is. What it is that when you are applying to residency, you need, for every time a program interacts with you in any way, you need them to be 100% clear on why you should be chosen above your peers for this opportunity. And so what it is then is that each document of your application needs to be communicating the very same main message. And so that main message is a clear and concise message about why you should be chosen. It's communication. It's very clear, it's very concise, and it says to them, this is why you need to choose me over everyone else. That's what a main message is. So how do you actually go about creating a main message? It goes through a couple of steps, which we're going to walk through with an example from pediatrics this evening. And so the very first step that I need you to consider is the reason that you want to match into residency training in this particular specialty. So that's number one when you're coming up with your main message. Why do you want to match into residency training in this particular specialty? And so some of the examples that I have is why this specialty. So let's say, it's pediatrics. So we're saying why this specialty, what made you think of applying, and what would you want to achieve once you actually get into the residency program. So the examples I had are, say, you want to match into pediatrics, and the reason being that you want to match into peds because you've realized throughout your professional life that when you work with children, you feel energized in a way that you do not when you are working with other populations. And so it makes sense, right, that you would specialize in working with them, because doing so brings you a level of fulfillment that you don't get from working with other populations. Another reason, for instance, that people give, which is kind of common across all specialties, but let's say, for instance, you say, I want to be able to improve my knowledge and improve my skills so that you can be of better service to not just children, but children and their parents who are their advocates, whenever they come in to be seen. That would be another reason. Another reason is, let's say, I want to get an opportunity to pursue research. This is whether you've done research before in great detail or some sort of nascent building block research. You're saying, I want to be able to pursue research as a part of my residency training to lay the foundation, perhaps for you doing research further on. Let's say you want to do fellowship training in pediatric gastroenterology, and so your time in residency will be a time for you, a period, an opportunity for you to gain those skills so that you have a foundation for going on to have this, part clinical, part academic medical career. So those would be the reasons that you want to match into residency training in this specialty. And the very first step of creating your main message for your residency application is to be able to articulate the reason that you want to match into residency training in this specialty. Step two in doing this is, it's not easy, I always tell people, but it's really simple once you have these foundational steps in place. The second step is to take a look at the reason that you are worthy. This is important because programs want to have people, and they want to select, and they will rank highly people who can bring some value to their program. You have to show people why you are worthy. That's what they're considering, even at the point where they apply the filters of whose applications they'll even look at, right? It needs to be worth their time. And so you always need to be communicating, why are you worthy of this opportunity? Some of the questions that come into, why you would be worthy for this opportunity, or let me just actually go to some of the examples. For instance, if you were applying to residency training in pediatrics of why you would be worthy, let's say people will say, I completed a pretty hectic medical school curriculum while being an active volunteer at an orphanage. So that would be like you have pretty good scores in medical school and you did this while volunteering outside of medical school, for instance, at an orphanage. And so this is what I refer to as an academic reason why you're worthy. It has everything to do with your academic performance, therefore it is an academic reason. And so that would be one example of why you are worthy of this opportunity. Another reason would be, it's academic in the sense that you're talking about how well you did in school, but it also has a kind of non-academic lean with the volunteering in the orphanage. But the most important part of it and the most important point would be your ability to get work done, get quality work done while doing other things. All right. The next point in such a scenario would be, let's say, what we'll call resilience, which is a huge quality of IMGs that programs are always looking out for. So let's say you happen to score lower in step 1 that you wanted to. Your performance in step 1 was below par, perhaps because many things were happening in your life at the time, perhaps personal things, and that compromised your performance. You did not perform as well as you wanted to. However, you were able, by the time you got to doing your step 2s, to understand, like you took the time to find out what are the things that you did wrong, what are the things that you did poorly the first time. You analyzed those and you fixed them. So whether it's that you needed additional help to do better, whether you needed to change the way that you were approaching your studies or to allot more time to studying, you went ahead and you changed that. And you did better the second time around. So this shows that you're a resilient person, actually shows that you're able to analyze problems and to solve problems and to do better the next time. So this would be an example of why you are worthy, because you are somebody who you would bring resilience to a care team. You would bring the ability to improve upon your work to a care team. Another reason, and we're talking about step 2 in the process of building your main message of why you would be worthy, is, let's say, for instance, you are known for going the extra mile for your patients, right? An example of that would be, let's say, for instance, a patient was in your care on the ward and you continued visiting that patient even after your rotation was done because you were just so concerned about their well-being. You tried to follow up and you found a particular way of cheering them up that nobody else was aware of, and you continued to do that even when you weren't necessarily contracted to be serving them. So that would be an example of why you are worthy. So far we have covered the reason that you want to match into this particular specialty for residency, why you want to match into residency in this particular specialty. And number 2 would be the reason that you're worthy. Number 3 is the absolutely most important part of any main message. And this is also my favorite part because it's a lot of fun coming up with it for different people depending on their backgrounds and what they bring to the table. Your unique value proposition needs to be something that you are 100% sure that no other applicant could say about themselves. And this is going to entail you knowing yourself very, very well in order to be able to then articulate what it is that you are pretty sure nobody else is going to be able to say or to talk about as something that they bring to the table. An example that I have with the current case of, here we are applying to pediatrics is, and this is a real example of a former client, let's say for this person with their unique value proposition, it was all about giving. You want your unique value proposition to be all about what you can contribute. With residency, you're giving, you're getting, but when it comes to your unique value proposition, it's all about that thing that you can give that you're very sure no one else would be able to give. Let's say for you, it's a particular expertise in teaching. With this individual, this person had sort of like lifelong experiences of tutoring persons in her neighborhood because her mom was a teacher. So let's say, a parent is a teacher, a member of the family is a teacher, and so their household was just known as a place that you would go to get help with your work. And so this particular applicant had experience tutoring children with their homework just for free after school to ensure that they would do well. The person also had experience during medical school in coordinating an activity for children, so older age children but still children, coordinating an activity for them while they were in medical school, kind of like a national competition, and teaching them and coaching them to become ready for this competition. So here is somebody who knows how to teach children in a rural place from scratch, help them bring their grades up, somebody who's able to coach children and teach children who then go on to compete in and win in a national competition. And the person also had experience educating the parents of the children in her neighborhood, because they knew that she was involved in medicine, and she happened to have grown up in a place with people from very different religious and cultural backgrounds, and that people believe different things about healthcare and interact very differently with healthcare systems, and disagree about certain management plans depending on their background. So this was the case with her, where she had tons of experience educating different parents from different cultural backgrounds, different religions, and managing somehow to kind of assuage their fears about interacting with the healthcare system and really getting them to get their children the healthcare that they needed. So basically what you had is somebody who was a stellar educator with incredible flexibility. She could educate people in whatever setting, and so her role in her particular practice of pediatrics would find her being able to be an excellent patient educator, just because she just had so much experience educating children into action, as well as educating parents into action. And given all of the different experiences that had brought her to the place of having that skill, it was very unlikely that somebody else would be able to tell the same set of stories about neighbors and neighbors' children and the national competition, to be able to prove their passion for educating and really empowering young people in all different spaces, health and education spaces. And so of course it's very believable that she would want to spend her career educating children's parents and children. All right. And so here's what we're going to do now that we have these three things. Hopefully you were able to write them down as we went along to make your main message. Is that you are looking at the first part of the reason that you want to match into residency training in this particular specialty. You're looking at the second aspect of the reason that you are worthy, and then you are looking at your unique value proposition. And so what's going to happen, the final step in making your main message, is to bring all of those things together in not more than 5 to 6 sentences. And so I'll give you an example of this. And again, this main message that you put together is then going to be not only in your personal statement, but also in your CV, in your letters of recommendation. If you know how to pull that off, it's going to be in your interview responses. It's going to be all around. And so now we're going to pull it together, and I'm going to walk you through how exactly to do that, just because your main message is so important. So let's say, for instance, I would like to match into pediatrics because I want to be able to work with children throughout the duration of my career. That would be an example. And the reason for that is that I want to be able to work with children throughout the duration of my medical career, because I find that when working with children, I'm energized in a way that I'm not when working with other patient populations. The residency training is also an opportunity for me to improve my knowledge and skills, particularly in pediatrics, so that I can be able to bring comfort to children and to their parents when children find themselves in a vulnerable position. I also, in the long-term future, would like to pursue further training in pediatric gastroenterology, and you could say whatever that's something that is of interest to you. And so residency training would be an opportunity for me to develop a very firm foundation, or if you already have somewhat of a foundation, to be able to continue to develop my skills in research as a part of training. The reason that I'm worthy of this opportunity, and so all of that first part of why you want to do it could be 1 to 2 sentences. The reason that I'm worthy of this opportunity is that I've managed to complete my medical school education while volunteering and remaining active in the community. This shows that I'm able to balance a tremendous amount of work at any one period, at any one time, in any one period, which is a skill that will be necessary to excel in residency, because it really will be, right? In addition, having scored lower than I wanted to on my step 1 exam and improve that performance in step 2, I have developed resilience. And then you can talk about why that resilience will be important to you getting through your residency training program. The other reason that I'm worthy of this opportunity, or the other reason that I know I'd make a strong addition to your team, is that I am known for going the extra mile for patients, for example, and you would go ahead and tell the patient anecdote of caring for someone, no longer being assigned to them, and still checking in on them, making sure that they're okay for whatever reason. Those would be the examples of why you're worthy. Then in your main message, you spend a nice little chunk of it talking about your unique value proposition in that summary, more than anything. And so you talk about the unique value proposition. You want to connect that to what you want to do for your patients, as well as to what you want to do for the wider world in the long-term future. So in addition to that, my broad experience as a teacher, teaching children in my community, preparing students for this national spelling bee competition, as well as educating parents in my community from different religious backgrounds, has made me very passionate about patient education. So clearly you would be a good fit for any program where primary care, well, obviously like PEDS is primary care, but where they have a specific focus on like preventative care or patient education. So my ability and my passion for educating children as well as their parents is something that I want to be able to leverage in a way that improves the way that parents are able to care for children. And then you would tie that to some sort of long-term aspiration as well. Maybe just parents becoming better advocates for their children's care, all right? So as you go about completing your residency application, just to recap, especially if you're watching this on the replay or you came on late, your main message is going to be the most integral thing that you create as you prepare your residency application. And what it is a summary that communicates to every program that reads any document in your application why you are worthy of matching. And the 3 key components of that is the reason that you want to match. You need to communicate your desires for matching, the reason that you're worthy, and your unique value proposition. And you always need to take that unique value proposition and connect it to your short and your long-term goals. All right, so that's how you do it. And I hope this was helpful for you. Definitely share the video with your colleagues who are also applying to the match, and click the link below to join our Facebook group, IMG Residency Match Made Simple. Have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.